Here we go.
Do it.
Okay, cool.
Here we go.
Welcome back to Coffin Talkin', where we unravel the mysteries, embrace the peculiar, and find humor in the unconventional world of funerals and death. We're here together.
Hi, Holly.
Hi, Dad.
How's it going?
Pretty good.
How's your trip been? Your visit?
It's been good. It's
Hold it. We got a lot of people in the room, so you can be as honest as you want to be.
Yep.
You can
Sounds like it.
You can even, I guess, skirt the truth if you wanted to, Holly.
Well, it's been the best trip of my life. So,
And that I knew would be true.
mhm.
I said you could skirt the truth.
Oh, yeah, I guess you're right.
Okay. So what else is going on?
Nothing really. We saved some ducks yesterday
Nice. From
from
a
the
family
pool.
pool. Mhm.
We're at Caden's house. They have some issues with ducks every year coming and hatching in their yard, and then the mom immediately takes them to water, which is their pool. But then the ducks can't get out of the pool. So we got them out,
with a
and
fish net? Or with the-
no, with
The leaf net?
we used a bin with the holes in it.
Oh, okay.
And so the water would drain out,
Oh.
but then we transferred them to a little other bin that was deep enough that they still couldn't get out, but it had some water in it.
Got it.
And then they have a canal behind their house. We transported them to the canal, and the mother duck was so angry the whole time because we're holding this bin of her babies, and she's squawking. She's
Did you walk
going,
to the canal?
yeah.
Okay.
Well, we went through their neighbor's gate because their neighbor has a gate out into the canal. And so the ducks tumbled down into the canal one by one, and they were reunited, and all is well.
Except for the two that passed, right?
No,
No, Dad,
don't.
We're good caregivers of the ducks.
Yeah, we did a great job. There were 9.
Really?
9, yes.
Does
So
anyone
many.
of the coffiners know how many a duck will usually throw?
Maybe. I don't think we're going to hear that from them right now, though. So,
we could hear about it later.
yeah, we could.
All right. So that was a fun little activity for you guys.
It was really fun. It was really fun to wake up to it and have to save some ducks.
And so how did the mother finally get calmed? Was she angry? She followed you the whole time? Did she try biting you, running you over?
No. She was not mean to us, but she was very vocal the entire time. So we didn't ever know exactly where she was because she was flying around.
Oh, she was fine.
Yeah, but she was just flying overhead going, wah, 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 wah. And she was so mad. But then we left them a couple steps away from us in the bin, and we had the bin on its side. But they didn't leave until the mom showed up, and she came and collected them.
Like good ducklings should.
Exactly.
That's exactly right. Okay.
Good little kids.
Well, I'm glad you were able to do that.
Yeah, that was really fun. How was your week?
It was good. I'm still trying to cut back or find out different ways of doing different things. We were able to go to a pottery class.
Yes.
So that was fun. Made a cup and a vase. No, a bowl and a vase. A bowl and a vase, because you were there with us.
Yes.
So I made a bowl and a vase, and it looked out really good. The woman that was teaching us was excellent.
Mm-hmm.
Very kind and very patient. Even none of us have ever really thrown pottery before.
No.
So it was a good experience and a lot of fun. I said to my wife afterwards, I said that was a fun activity.
It was so much fun.
So anyway, so we're trying to maybe we'll branch out, try and do some more things. That's what I want to do.
Yeah.
Kind of branch away. Right now, I'm just working school, church, or working home, church. It just doesn't. And when I'm home, I'm not home that often.
Yeah.
That long, so
So you want to branch out,
yeah,
find different hobbies.
and as relaxing as it was,
Mm-hmm.
my phone would keep ringing,
Yeah.
and then I'd get a little irritated because I didn't want to talk to anyone while I was doing this stuff.
Yeah.
So I don't know. It was fun though. It was a good activity for the week for me. Nice. Haven't heard much from any of my family.
Any of your
So,
family?
Yeah, my brothers.
Your
and sisters,
your
my
family.
siblings.
Okay.
So they've been kind of on my mind this past week as well. So I'll probably reach out to them and find out what we can do to kind of increase that little bit of an experience there. See how everyone's doing.
Mm-hmm. I will have to say, I wish that Scott was here for this episode because he had quite the experience. And on the next Phone a Funeral, I'm going to have him share it because it was so funny. And I was just so blessed to be witness to it. So be on the lookout for the next Phone a Funeral because Scott will have a story for us. But other than that, I think we're good to go. And I know that you had promised a spooky story today. That's why all the lights are on. We're doing it midday.
Shutters are open.
We invited everyone we know to be witness just for comfort in numbers. No, I'm kidding. But let's jump in. Let's be frank.
First of all, let's go back to a myth thing. Let's start that with myths.
Mhm.
So tell me, Holly, when I say personalized funerals, what do you think about?
When I say personalized funerals, I think, how nice. I'm thinking probably, I don't know. I think of the story that you told, One Last Ride, I believe we called it, where they brought in his motorcycle and everything,
Oh, yeah.
and it was very personalized to him. That's what I would think. I don't know what else you can personalize about a funeral.
So that's exactly what it is. It talks about personalization, but before the baby boomers took a hold of it, a lot of times they would look at it as they don't need a funeral or the use of a funeral home because they're going to do a personalized funeral or what they call a celebration of life in their own home. And so that becomes a personalized funeral for them. But personalization for us, when we talk about it, and you are spot on, is bringing in things that were most effective to them or most important to them in their lives. So, for instance, if someone spent their whole life climbing trees and trimming trees, then the gear that he would use or she would use for that activity would then be on display. And then let the funeral homes do that. The one where the guy was courting his wife and fell and hurt his thigh with the ring that he eventually gave her. His bike was on display because that's what he and she both enjoyed doing, was riding bikes. So there's a lot of different things that you can do for personalization. Personalization is not just having a funeral off-site and somewhere where they thought that would be the best. So it would be something that would also include a little bit about their activities of life, their careers, what they've devoted a lot of time and effort into. So that becomes a personalization side. Okay. So I'm going to tell you about one of my friends, and he was a friend for easily 18 months. And I happened to just run across him because at the time when I met him, he was actually on the corner of the street and he was peddling for food or for money, whatever he could do. And so I just struck up a conversation. I was walking at the time. I wasn't in a car or anything, but I just happened to walk up to him, struck up a conversation, and found out he was quite an amazing man.
Oh.
And so he had fallen on some hard times, rough times. And as luck would have it, I would do a walk circumference around the mortuary that I lived or where I worked, and would walk probably 2 miles on a break around a specific track. And he was always there. And so that's why I just occasionally just say hi. But this time I decided I would stop and talk a little bit further. So as we became more friendly, I told him where I worked, and he would occasionally come to the mortuary and then sit down and visit with me.
Mm-hmm.
And on one particular occasion, he pulled out, and he was an artist by trade. And on one particular occasion, he came in and he was telling me all about his past, and he pulled out a chip, a token chip. I don't know what they call them, but for AA, for Alcoholics Anonymous. And the one that he showed me was just a straight bronze-colored token. And I congratulated him on getting that token, and he must be very proud. Yes, but these are the ones I'm most proud of. And he would bring out another series of tokens, and he had painted them.
Oh.
And so he would paint them with certain colors that he enjoyed, certain designs on the tokens, made him unique, made him his own, which is important to the story. So we continued on our friendship and relationship for probably, 4 or 5 weeks. And then he brought in a son, and I was able to meet the son.
Wow.
And the son had been estranged from his father for some time. And so when he left, he specifically looked at me and he said, "Thanks for bringing my father back to us as a family."
Wow.
Because through our course of conversation, we were talking about how important family was, and whatever gaps there were in his familial relationships, he needed to kind of bridge that
Yeah.
and get back together with his family. So he came in. This was the only time I'd ever met him, his son. And it turned into lunches. So we would then start to have lunch together, and he would provide lunch, which was me. I mean, it wasn't much, but then I would provide lunch, and we would banter back and forth as to who was going to pay for what and do for whatever lunch. And on one particular morning, I walked into the mortuary, and at the table where we usually sat and ate in the mortuary in our little kitchen area,
Oh, yeah.
we would have dinner or lunch, and there in the middle of the table was one of these tokens,
One of the ones he had painted?
one that he had painted. And I go, "Oh my gosh." And I just remembered thinking his name and thinking, he left the token.
Mm-hmm.
He shouldn't have left it here, and he's probably going to be missing it.
Yeah.
And so I immediately tried calling him, couldn't call him. No one was
Yeah.
picking up the phone. Nothing was happening. And so I just thought, okay, I'll just leave it here. I'll see him in a week or so. So I'm looking at this coin, and the phone rings, and it's his son.
Oh.
And his son says, "Hi, this is so-and-so. I'm looking for someone that may know my father by the name of..." And I just happened to pick up the phone, and I said, "Oh, I know your father. It's me. That's Frank. I think I met you one other time." He said, "Well, I have sad news. My father passed away this morning."
Oh, my gosh.
And I said, "Really? Just this morning?" And he goes, "Yes." And I said, "Well, I saw him a week ago, but he left a coin here." And
So you knew he had been in on that morning?
no, I saw his coin. You get what I'm saying? So he
So-
passed away that morning. He could not have come into the building because it was all
Right.
locked up.
Oh.
So I'm looking at now a coin that was obviously somehow left
Mm-hmm.
in the building that no one would have had access to,
Mm-hmm.
excepting for my friend, because it was his coin, obviously, because no one else would have decorated their coins, or at least not I had seen that way. So I said, "Hey, I think I've got one of your father's coins." And he said, "Well, you guys were such good friends. You should probably
keep
just
it."
keep it." And I thought to myself, well, maybe this was my indication telling me that he had passed away,
Yeah.
because and his son openly admitted, he said, "I couldn't remember the facility you worked at, and I just kept looking and looking." And I said, I've tried calling him, and he said, "I'm the one that retrieved your number off the phone." So
Oh.
whoever called my dad, I figured, okay, they must know my dad. So
Yeah.
he was going to backtrack and kept calling all the people that were recent callers to him. So incident number one, the coin is on the table. My friend has passed away. And I'm a little bit sad because he has passed away, and we had developed such a friendship that I really wasn't sure where I was going to go with this or what was going to happen to my friend.
Mm-hmm.
So his son said, "Well, you guys have been such good friends. Do you think you could help us with the funeral?" Honored to.
Yeah,
I
of
would
course.
be happy to help you with that funeral. And no sooner had I been given the permission to go to, he was at the medical examiner's office, of course, because he hadn't been seeing a doctor.
Right.
So they didn't really know what was his cause of death or what caused his death to occur. I went to the medical examiner's office and brought him into my care. And as soon as I had him in the car and was driving away, remember the witch where
Episode?
I could feel like there was someone watching me?
Yes.
No one was watching me, but someone was by me.
Okay.
And so I'm driving along, and I'm just kept looking over, and I just said, "Hey, you're here, aren't you?" And I heard a little tap on the dashboard.
Oh my gosh.
And so I'm thinking, okay, good, he's here.
We have a game now.
We have a game. So
2 taps for yes, 1 tap for no.
So I'm thinking, okay, I hope you're well, and I hope you're doing well and fine. I hope you're happy. Sorry to hear that you're passing. I'm just talking like this in general.
Mm-hmm.
And we get to the mortuary, and I bring his body out of the vehicle on the gurney into the building. And I'm just walking along, and behind me, I now hear steps, like footsteps.
Yeah.
And as I'm walking to the elevator, Now you know which funeral home I'm talking about.
Mhm.
But as I walk to the elevator and I open the elevator, oh no, there's 2 elevators. Stories. I forgot about the first one.
There
So
are
as
2.
I'm walking into the building, I lift the gate.
Now we know which
Now you
elevator
know.
you're talking about.
Now you know. So I push the gurney into the elevator and I close the door
Mm-hmm.
or the gate. Now remember, for those of you that don't know and or remember, the elevator doesn't work unless the gate is all the way down.
Right.
So I pushed it all the way down, and the elevator started to inch up, but then the gate lifted.
Oh,
And I
okay.
just, what are you doing? And I'm thinking out loud. I'm just talking to him. So what are you doing?
So you know it's him.
I
You're
think it
talking
is
to him.
I think it is him.
You're going, hey, I need to go up. I don't want to climb these stairs.
So I pulled the gate back down, and lo and behold, as we're starting up again, the gate lifted again. And I'm thinking, okay, what do you need? What am I missing?
Yeah, he needs something. He must
Right.
need something.
That's what I was thinking. And so when I went back to the car, I retraced my steps. I left him in the garage area because that's where the elevator was, and I didn't want to be bringing him back and forth. And so coffiners, when we bring deceased from one location to another, there's always a blanket, some sort of a covering over them so that, people know what you're doing, but it just kind of adds respect.
Out of respect.
To the deceased. So I went up into the car and I was looking all over the backside thinking maybe something fell out. Something is there that I shouldn't, that I have forgotten or maybe need to retrieve. Walked back down the ramp to the garage area and his cover was off.
Oh.
Now, mind you, this was in the afternoon or towards the afternoon or the early evening when I was able to retrieve him back into our care. And so now the cover's off. I'm alone in the building. I'm the only one there, so there's no way. I have no reason to believe that no one else would have removed that cover or who else could have removed that cover. So now the cover's off and it's on the floor, on the ground. And I looked at the cover and I just said, okay, what now? Because now I'm thinking, okay, it wasn't in the car. Is it something with you? And the medical examiners, when you go to the medical examiner, they usually give you a bag of personal effects, evidence,
Sure,
wallets, keys,
whatever was on them.
Yeah, whatever was on them. And so I just looked at the bag and I was looking through it. And there in the bag itself was another one of these discs of these tokens or chips.
Of his painted ones.
Now, this one, as I'm looking at it, was more particular to me.
Oh.
Because it had my initials on it.
FL.
FWL. Which made it even more inclusive. So as I flipped it over, there was a tombstone on the backside. So I knew that he was referring to me because of my job.
Right.
And so I don't know if he was meaning to give that to me at any one particular time or not. So I didn't really do anything with it because it's not mine. It wasn't given to me.
Sure.
So I left it in the bag and I put it back up put it on his person once again. And I put the cover back on, went into the elevator, shut the gate, and it did go up.
Okay.
And I'm thinking, okay, good.
Maybe he wanted you to see it.
Maybe so. And so we get to the top level where the embalming would take place if needed be. And the family had not given me permission to embalm him. So I immediately took him off the gurney and placed him wheeled him into the cooler and then placed him on a shelf in the cooler. And as I was closing the cooler, I hear this again, that little tap.
Oh, the little tap. So not steps.
Not steps, the little tap on the dash. And I'm thinking, gosh, I said out loud, I wish I knew what you wanted.
Yeah.
Just help me some way or another. Just tell me what it is you want, what it is you need.
Mm-hmm.
So when I was leaving before I left and closed the door, I just sat down and I just put my hand on his arm, and it was almost like he was shivering.
Oh.
And then I began to get scared because I thought, oh my gosh, I picked up someone that wasn't quite passed away. But that's not true because there was an autopsy done. And so autopsies, obviously, if you're not dead, you're dead after the autopsy.
Right.
So, but his arm was shaking just a little bit. And I just remembered putting both arms on there or both hands on his arm and thinking, what can I do for you? What is it you're needing to have done?
Yeah.
And I was not getting anything. Nothing was happening. And then suddenly the chills that chill motion stopped.
Okay.
So I just walked out of the cooler and I closed the door. So now on the board.
Oh, no.
Oh, no. on the board. Every shelf is numbered and rotated. And so I went on ahead and I put his name on the shelf that he was located in on. And as I went downstairs and started getting some things together, I made some phone calls to the son and to another family member, and we're gathering the information together to find out what exactly it is they wanted to have done.
Sure.
And so we were looking towards cremation, which is fine. That's what most people were going to do anyway. And so when I went back upstairs to just kind of say hi to him, not say goodbye or anything like that, just say hi to him, I opened the door and I looked at the board and I thought, okay, and I knew what shelf I'd put him on.
Yeah.
But he was no longer on that shelf.
No. Was he on a different shelf?
He was on a different shelf across the cooler hallway on the shelf almost immediately directly in front, or directly across from where he was placed.
What?
Yes. And I'm thinking to myself, okay, now who would have come into the building? Because no one else was on that shelf now. Usually, if you're moving a body, you're going to replace.
Yeah, you need that shelf. Yeah, that's why you're moving.
You're usually moving a heavier body to another shelf, so you can or a lighter body to another shelf, so you can put a heavier body on that shelf.
Right.
But no one else. I looked at the board. No one else had been moved. There was no one else that had come into that cooler. Why would he have moved?
Was his name still on the board where you had put it?
On the same shelf. But he was no longer on that shelf. So as I started looking at it, I just walked up to my friend. I said, "What are you doing?
Why are you doing this to me? I thought we were friends."
I know we're friends, but I hadn't heard of jokes and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But, even my supervising embalmer wouldn't have done this one. But okay, here we go. So I'm talking to him and just casually talking to him, and his arm falls.
No.
His not off his body, but off the shelf.
Right.
It just becomes, and usually they're usually in cadaver pouches. So
it's like a swaddle.
So it's zipped up. You can't get out of it, but the arm flails forward or off to the side of the. What do I want to say? To the side of the shelf. So someone has opened the bag. Okay.
Oh.
Now you're seeing where I'm going with this.
Yeah.
So now the bag is open. I see his body there, and now his arm falls to the side of the shelf. And I'm looking at him thinking, okay, what are you doing?
What is
now
happening?
You're trying to point to something? That's what I'm thinking.
Maybe.
So under him was another individual. And
Oh my gosh.
Okay, hold on a second. So the other individual that was in there, we couldn't find family for. But he had been involved with I guess he had been shot, suicide by cop. So we couldn't find any family on this individual. So he had been in there for a while, and or about as long as this person. I shouldn't say for a while, because it was about the same time as when my friend went in. So both individuals had been there for about a week. And the cops said that they had found a gun that was fingerprinted to the guy that was under this man.
Under your friend.
Under my friend. And they declared my friend being killed by a ice pick.
What?
Yes.
What?
An ice pick to the back of the head.
Wait.
Hold on.
He was murdered?
That's what I said. He was what? He was murdered?
An ice pick?
An ice pick.
That's
right at the base of his skull.
That's like straight out of one of those riddles. It's like, how did they kill him? But there's a puddle of water on the floor. Oh my gosh.
He was standing on a block of ice.
Yeah.
No, okay. So the ice pick. Now, this gentleman, because he had dropped his hand, I immediately started thinking,
he killed you.
Could this be the guy that killed him?
Yeah.
Now I'm coming to mind he was shaking.
It's cold for the ice pick, or maybe scared. He's going to go in the same room as his murderer.
That's what I was thinking.
Yeah.
And so I called the cops and I had them come over and I said, look, there's some weird happenings with my friend here. Could this individual have done more killings than just with the gun? And he said, well, what are you thinking?
An ice pick to the back of the skull.
I said, could he have used anything like an ice pick? And the cops just went pale. And he looked at me and he goes, how do you know about an ice pick?
Wait. I think that I'm thinking of the wrong thing. An ice pick is An ice pick is
It's a long, shallow tube
right.
that
And it's really sharp on one
that's
end.
correct. And
Okay.
it's used to chip blocks of ice into smaller pieces.
Originally, I was thinking like an icicle.
No.
No.
No, this is an ice pick.
Okay. Oh, that's so much worse.
It is worse.
Oh.
And so I said, so you're telling, I'm reading the death certificate now that this guy died from a ice pick stabbing the back of the head.
Yeah.
Do you think it could have been this guy? And so they hadn't put everything together, but they started to. And so they started to do a little bit more of an investigation. And so now we have an open investigation regarding my friend
Yes.
being killed with an ice pick, possibly by the guy under him. Now, it's kind of a small world when you get into the murder realm of things, I guess. But to be suicidal because he didn't drop a gun, so he was killed by a cop. So that wasn't investigated, remember?
Right.
So because they would have just put him down as a maniac
Right.
that was kind of,
Lost his mind.
yeah, and was waiting for someone to just shoot and kill him.
Right.
So now they're looking at the back and they said, look, here's his death certificate. Ice pick to the back. You're now saying that this guy had killed another individual with an ice pick. Maybe he killed the same guy. And so I started to tell him some of the experiences that I was having with him regarding the individual that was shaking and
Yes.
then moving from one shelf to the other, which just doesn't happen.
No.
And then for his hand to drop down. you know,
Pointing.
I don't know if it was pointing or not. I just remembered it dropping down and then thinking, okay, so now you're trying to show me something below you.
Yeah.
The only thing below him was this other gentleman. Anyway, turns out that they did link his murder to this guy that was below him.
Oh my gosh.
So, so now we're getting ready for the funeral. So now I take him out of the cooler, my friend, to embalm him. Now, as I get ready to embalm him, no one else, because I had full access to the prep room.
Right.
There's no one else in there, but on the counter is another painted Alcoholics Anonymous
Oh
chip.
my gosh.
So now we're looking at 3 chips, totally different. All 3 chips are totally different.
What was painted on this one?
I don't remember. I want to say kind of like the yin yang thing.
Yin yang. Okay.
Yin yang. And so, I see this chip, and so I just figured, okay, I think he wants to hold the chip.
Mm-hmm.
So I put it in his hand. Now this is the one that I think was the yin yang, or the, what do they call it?
Yin yang.
Yin yang or whatever. Anyway, you guys know what I'm talking about. So I put it in his hand after the embalming is completed. Put him on the gurney, put him back in the cooler, again on the shelf opposite where he was. Because we had just discovered that this guy probably killed him, so I didn't want him anywhere near one
Yeah,
another.
okay,
So just kind of
okay.
keep them separated.
So the original shelf he went back on.
That's correct. He went back onto the original shelf. As I closed the door, I thought, this is turning out to be kind of nice.
Kind of nice.
Kind of nice that, that
At least that, yes, that
there's
his murderer got caught.
That there's some resolution to how he passed away. And
Especially
I wasn't
such a
feeling
horrific way to die.
Man, I wasn't feeling so bad.
Right.
I was feeling bad that he was murdered.
Yeah, of course.
But I wasn't feeling bad because he didn't die under a cause of death that he wasn't aware of, like a cancer.
Sure, yeah.
Or hit by a car, whichever. I in my mind,
There's a
just
clear
all sorts of
resolution.
things, yes.
Mhm.
So that evening, where I lived in the mortuary, I went right back upstairs, and I was just getting ready to go into my bedroom when I decided, I'm just going to step in there and say hi. Just let him know how he's doing. Check the tissue, make sure it's firming up fine for the services the following day. In there, he was still on the same shelf. But when we embalm them, we put them on a sheet so that they're completely covered.
Yeah.
And they're nice and it's just for respect of the individual. So I covered him up with a sheet, had some cream on his face to keep his face moist and or supple. Soft, whatever. I don't know how to say whatever.
Moisturized.
Yeah. So I walked in there and I looked at him and said, okay, good. I called him by name and I said, I'm glad you're still here.
Yeah.
And that everything's fine. I looked in his hand. Chip was still there.
Okay,
Everything's
good.
going well. When
Oh,
the
no.
guy on the shelf below him on the other side,
The murderer?
the murderer, I looked down and there's a chip on top of him.
Oh, my gosh.
And it's not his chip.
Is it your chip?
It's the one it's in the evidence bag, the FWL. It's
The one that he
was
made for
me,
you.
that I think was for me. And now I'm thinking, oh my gosh, now how did it get out of that evidence bag? So I went running downstairs to check the evidence bag to see if it had been removed. And
Yeah.
it wasn't there, but the bag was still sealed. So I'm thinking to myself, now what do I do now with this chip? Yeah, and it's obviously logged in as evidence from the medical examiner. This chip is now logged in as evidence, but now it's no longer in the evidence bag, and I have to give the family the evidence bag and
my gosh.
and the list of property.
Right.
They're going to say, well, where's the chip? And if the bag is still sealed, because it's a red evidence tape that they seal the bags with.
So it's very obvious if it's been opened.
Tampered with. Yep. And so here I'm in a dilemma. I called my supervising embalmer and I said, hey, what do I do here? He said, why'd you open the bag? I said, I didn't open the bag. And look at the bag. It's still sealed.
Mhm.
I didn't open the bag. And so he goes, well, we've got to open the bag then and put the chip back in. I said, okay. All right. So, okay, but you're going to be my witness.
Yeah.
That
Because they're going to ask.
Yeah, that I didn't open the bag. You can see that it's been sealed. We don't have access to that tape because it's a specific tape to the medical examiner.
Right.
And we don't have the money to keep that kind of tape on site. So they have it printed. So anyway, we cut the bag with a scalpel or razor blade and then just got a little thin line and then dropped the medallion back into the bag.
Yeah.
And he said, there, Frank. He treated him like a little kid. He just kind of takes his hand and taps me.
There, Frank. Good job. You did
It'll
it.
be all okay.
Oh my God.
So he taps me on the side of my face, and I'm thinking to myself, you know what? What are you tapping me on the side of the face for?
Yeah.
I'm not a little kid.
I'm not a little kid. You're not my dad.
So anyway, I was just running it through my mind the whole time, thinking I am going to get into trouble here because that is something the family, if they open it in front of you, that's fine.
Right.
But if you open it, they always have a tendency to wonder, well, what are you going through my brothers and my dad's belongings for?
Right.
So I just thought that there would be a little bit of an argument. And the next day at the service, I said to the son, who I'd only met once, talked to him a couple of times on the phone, I said, I put one of your father's tokens or medallions in his hand.
Mm-hmm.
I said, I thought that was appropriate. He said, that's a great call. Yeah, let's do that. So I put it in there. So his hand, most hands are open when they're on the chest or belly of the person. And the son said, you think that I could go ahead? Now, but just before that, I walked him up and I showed him the doubled up hand and I opened it up just a little bit so he could see the token. And he said, yeah, that's a good touch. So he said, do you think it would be a problem if we open the hand and just had him on the belly so that we could go ahead and put the token under his hand?
Oh, okay.
I said, yeah, I don't think that would be a problem. And so I opened the hand and went like this to put his hand on his belly, and the token was no longer in the hand.
Oh my gosh.
It wasn't there. And so now I looked at him and told him, you just saw the token, right? And so we started going on the sides of the casket.
Yeah.
Thinking that it had fallen to the side of the casket because when a person's put in a casket, there's a bed and you can raise and lower it. So there is that space underneath the bed. So before the viewing began, I just rolled him over just a little bit. I said, please pull the bed. It wouldn't have fallen far.
No.
It would have fallen just straight down to the bottom of the casket. See if you can see that token. So he pulled the bed mattress or the frame aside and he looked down into the casket. He said, I don't see anything here, Frank. I go, oh my gosh, what are we going to do? He said, don't worry about it. There's plenty. I'll grab another one. We'll just put it on his back on his belly, and so we'll go ahead and make it sure that. So we'll just make sure that it's that he is at least buried with one of his tokens. I said I think that would be a good thing because he was very proud about being able to kick out alcohol. And as I went back upstairs after the service, I thought, oh my gosh, it's all done. And finally, someone called to claim the body of the murderer.
Oh my gosh.
That is going to be part 2
of
her story.
Of course it is.
Of course it is. And so you'll be surprised, Coffeners, when you think, what do you think about this story so far, Holly?
So here's the thing.
Mm-hmm.
When you started this story, I was like, okay, Dad promised like a really scary, spooky story. This just feels heartfelt.
Yeah. Okay. That's how it does feel heartfelt.
Yes, it does. But now there's all sort of shenanigans.
Yeah.
There's all sort of nefariousness going on. He's pointing to the murderer. The murderer ends up in the same cooler as him. I don't know what to think about this.
You'll be surprised by next week's episode.
Oh my gosh. I really don't know what to think about this. An ice pick to the head.
It was right to the base of the skull.
Oh my.
And you know what? Here's the other thing too that I didn't mention, but is in the book and the story. The medical examiner didn't pick up on that.
What?
Yeah,
Wait.
They didn't, because usually they'll cut along the top of the head,
Yeah.
cut into the brain, but they didn't even notice the pick. The
How?
hole at the base of his skull.
So when you were doing the embalming, you noticed it.
No, this was before. But I noticed there was excessive blood behind his head. That wasn't
Oh, I
normally
see.
there after an autopsy. Where's he bleeding from?
Right.
Especially
It's
up here.
still draining.
Yeah, no, it's not only that, but usually when the brain is taken, it's put in a viscera bag that is put back in the cavity of the individual.
Sure.
So very seldom is there's not too much blood up by the head of the individual. There was an enormous amount of blood by this individual.
Oh my gosh.
And so I was just looking around and I said, you take gloves and you start feeling under the side of the head. There it is, a little pinpoint. And I go, So that's where it all began.
So in your day, you've solved quite a few murders.
No, that's two.
Just two. No, I think there's three.
I haven't even solved them. I just.
You're
lead.
there.
I just lead. Yeah. Give a
Oh
suggestion.
my gosh.
Yeah.
You are seriously like the medium that they call in for these things.
You know, here's one of those things, though, too, Holly. Before in the mortuary science or nursing, my nursing was supposed to help me springboard into forensic pathology.
Yeah.
That's what I really wanted to be.
Yeah.
And that's a study of death. The
Right.
forensics is how death occurs. So that's truly what I wanted to do. And so I'm always intrigued when someone, specifically my friend, I
Yeah.
have no reason to believe why he would have passed away any other reason than if his heart just gave out.
Right.
But yeah, it was very interesting for me. And even at the scene, there should have been a pool of blood
I know.
that an investigator would have picked up on.
You would think.
But yeah. Anyway, this was a state that's a little cautionary tale on things they do, even today.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
anyway, what else do you think of that? Any other comments or questions about it before we get into part two?
One thing that I was thinking when he was in the elevator and the sheet came off of him,
Mm-hmm.
you went back and the sheet was
Mhm.
gone. I was like, oh no, this is the same guy from Free Hoodie. He just likes putting cloth on top of people and taking it off. Oh my gosh.
This was quite a few months after Free Hoodie.
Yeah.
But I've had kind of the same thought.
You're like,
Thinking,
not
are you
again.
gonna try wearing this?
Not
Or what-
again.
Do I need to hang it up, see if it belongs in it? No.
No,
this
that's
belongs in the
okay.
mortuary.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. But anyway.
No,
yeah.
that's just crazy. I don't know what to think about that. I really don't. I'm trying to put together like what might have happened, who's going to claim the murderer. I know it's going to be connected somehow. It's going to be like the son or something. The son, I don't know. Maybe he was a hitman and then I don't know. Oh my gosh. I just think it's crazy that so many things have happened to you.
It is. It's the more and more I look back on stories that I've just
You're like,
even
oh,
done
yeah, I
bullet points,
did.
I'm thinking, oh my god,
That was a lot.
Yeah, and that was a long time ago, and I've forgotten this.
Yeah.
There's little aspects of this particular story.
Right. Well, no, let's stop it there, and you'll have to hear who claims the murderer next week. And I don't know. I was just laughing with you earlier about how I named the last episode Frank Bringer of Death. This one should be Frank Solver of Death or something. Oh my gosh.
For this episode, and sorry about last week, but this episode and the next one hopefully will make up for that.
Yeah, we'll see you next week.
All right. Send in your comments, questions
Questions and comments and concerns, coffintalkingpodcast@gmail.com. We'll see you next week.
Bye.